Meeting for August 16, 2022 is now called to order. Please stand for the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please, Tim.
Robert Carnahan.
Here.
John Foreman.
Present.
Julia Rivera. Here. Ralph Miller.
Present.
Randy Niemeyer.
Present.
Colleen Sheehan is absent. Richard Sharp.
Here.
I am present. Chris Delisle.
Present.
David Austin.
Present. Thank you. Under new business, do we have a motion to approve the minutes from the July 19, 2022 meeting?
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Julie.
I'll second.
Second by Ralph. Roll call.
Robert Carnahan.
Yes.
John Foreman.
Yes.
Julia Rivera.
Yes.
Randy Niemeyer.
Yes.
Ralph Miller.
Yes.
Richard Sharp.
Yes. Motion carries 6-0. Needs pay request, the amount of $512,918.46 to Instituform Technologies USA LLC. Neil, you want to?
Yes, Mr. President, this is the services agreement that was approved last year. This is for the lining of the east side sanitary sewer interceptor on Morse on the east side south of 133rd. And the contract amount for that project, there we go, was
538?
538, and then we were under on that project, and the final amount was $512,918.46.
So this is the total payment for the contract?
Total
Okay.
payment for the completion of the contract. We have reviewed the videos with Tony in the sewer department, and everything's consistent with what was requested as part of the project required for their pre-construction and post-construction videos that were submitted.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Neil.
Thank you. And then we would probably look to work with Chris going forward to determine if they would be willing to extend that contract in terms of the amounts and the length and the size diameter of the sanitary sewers if we should so choose to line additional areas within town.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, Chris?
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
Mr. Chairman, I just had a quick question for Neil. Neil, this shows on your August 8th letter, it shows pay request number 1. Is there going to be another?
No, this is the final pay request.
Because that's final, so, okay.
Yeah, they
This is
did.
the first and the final. So there's two payments, first and final.
Good. Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Do we have a motion to approve the request for $512,918.46?
So moved.
Motion by Randy,
I'll second.
second by Julie. Roll call.
Robert Carnahan.
Yes.
John Foreman.
Yes.
Julia Rivera.
Yes.
Randy Niemeyer.
Yes.
Ralph Miller.
Yes.
Richard Sharp.
Yes. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you. Number 3, acceptance of the proposed development by LBL Development LLC into the town utility service territory for potable water and sanitary sewer. Chris, I'll let you.
Mr. President, so LBL Development is contemplating a development west of our municipal boundaries, right along state line, and they've asked that if and when they do proceed with that development, that the town of Cedar Lake would accept the potable water and sanitary sewer infrastructure into our utility territory. I would ask that we approve this because it's, I believe, critical to the long-term protection of what we view as our service territory and keeping other municipalities or other utility providers outside of our planning district.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, for the record, this area has been identified over every single update of our comprehensive master plan over the last 2 decades as a part of our planning area, and it is part of our service area for fire and EMS services. So I think given that it is contained within our planning area, within our utility jurisdictions and our map, that it would be prudent for us to take this action as by what Chris said was to create a clear buffer for the next 50 years of development of this entire area. So this is not about today, this is about making sure that we do the things today that protect tomorrow.
I would agree on that.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Randy,
I will second that.
second by John. Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Randy Neiman? Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes, motion carries 6-0.
One little note on that is that the letter that will be conveyed would need to be reviewed by our attorney and submitted by our town manager. So that's not a contingency, but I wanted to make a note for the record.
Very good. Thank you, Randy. Moving on to written reports, fund reports. Jennifer?
Board members, the cash and expenditure reports were sent out to you the other day. I also wanted to report to you all, because we briefly mentioned it at your last meeting on August 4th, I believe it was, Chris and I met with Sue Hayes, our utility accounting specialist, and we also met with Corby Thompson, our financial consultant with Cronin Associates. And I wanted to let you all know that I believe we had a very productive afternoon. We discussed everything. We discussed the utilities, we discussed the general budget, how we want to move forward, keep track of things. I mean, we covered everything. We covered the debt service funds, we covered what we plan to see for 23, and I think we're all on the same page and moving forward with not only our general budget, but also making sure that we move forward with utility budget as we had previously discussed.
That makes me so happy.
I mean, don't ask me for it like next week, but,
But this is 3 years in the making.
But we're working on it.
Where we have absolutely every penny managed. So
Very good. Thank
happy
you.
about that.
Thank you, Jen. Number 5, consultants and staff reports, engineer, Nice Engineering, and could we add a I under B for water tower update?
That is in the item 2 water tower, or...
The water update, now we combine
You
it.
could always count on me to ask that
I
question.
wanted to get it done. I didn't
Part
mean
of
to
what I
steal
do.
anybody's thunder,
Don't
so.
take that away from me.
It's okay. For the sanitary updates, as we mentioned earlier in the meeting, the East Side Sanitary Sewer Interceptor, the lining and manhole rehabilitations are complete. The SSES for the west side meters, those are being read next week, and we're coordinating that with Tony and Kyle from the sewer department. The sewer department will move forward in a conversation Chris and I had last week for inspections of manholes to look at opportunities to rehab those, to remove I&I from the system with a de facto increase in your capacity through that manhole rehabilitation, similar to what the recent lining of those manholes was done through Spectre Tech for the East Side project.
Neil, do you have an estimate of what capacity could be gained through this relining?
It will obviously depend on what inspections they perform, report back to us, and what we can determine are the areas of infiltration and inflow as part of that. But on a typical manhole, you could look at possibly 10 to 40 gallons a minute. If it's a really bad one, 5 to 20. If it's a moderate to reasonable condition one. And the new stuff that you're seeing in the recently developed areas, those are all vacuum tested, and so your inflow and infiltration on those is essentially zero.
So essentially, you gave me no answer on capacity.
Yeah, you're right. Until we get those inspections back from the sewer department, we just don't know.
Have you ever thought about running for Congress or a Senate?
I don't know if I should be more offended by your first question or your second.
You've got that whole dance around that down deal.
Yeah, but
Good Lord.
what Kyle and Tony do as part of their inspections allows us to do what we do to move forward with those remediation projects. For the West Side Sanitary Sewer Interceptor, they have begun work, and we had a pipe production issue that Chris and I have discussed. They are intended to be back in production in September to supplement the pipe that's already been received by the contractor for that project, and we will be moving forward on our inspection of their work at that time.
I won't ask any more questions.
Do you want to get any more answers?
No, it doesn't matter. That's correct. That's what we're talking about, on the sewer.
Strike that from the record.
Thank you, Jim.
No, where it's on YouTube, so I'll never be struck, but.
On the water side, consistent with what we discussed at last month's meeting, they will be beginning construction and staging in late September. That's for the elevated tank at Crystal Oaks. On the east side transmission main, we have all the documents submitted, and we'll be processing and scheduling an SRF meeting as we did for the tower, as is required for our financing for the east side main. Paradise Cove, we got the well tests from the water department, and we are moving forward with design as coordinating with their specifications for automatic chlorination and the VFDs for the drives out there as recommended by Ortman, who did those airburst and well capacity tests. The Utopia water main replacement project, we had a pre-construction meeting on site last week, Tuesday. They are expecting material delivery by mid-September, and once we get a firm date, we'll schedule a pre-construction meeting at Town Hall and then forward out the information to the residents subsequent to that.
The east side water tower is still set for being installed and completed by August of 2023.
Oh, yeah, their schedule, yes, absolutely, Bob.
Any additional questions?
No, sir.
Thank you, Randy. Thank you. We move to the Director of Operations, Mr. Kubiak.
With the Parish project, we've made several discoveries of some water mains that we were unaware of, that we didn't know were there. One by hitting it, as we reported at the last meeting, in the road, but we also found a main on the west side of Parish, a 6-inch main that runs all the way up Parish to the north that we didn't know was there, wasn't on any of our maps, we also found a couple.
North of 133rd?
West side?
South 133rd, but west side of the road, which we knew there was one on the east side of the road. We did not know there was one on the other side of the road, so.
And it's active?
It's active. We found several things out, and we've done a lot of potholing and found a lot of things that we didn't know were there, but we actually found a water service to the church next to James Hall, and we've tracked it down to clear almost to Utopia, and we still can't find where it comes from.
What is it?
It's a water service line that ran to the church. It ran along, we found it running on top of the main that we found on the other side of the road, and we followed it for 100 feet, and it's just laying on top of another main. And somebody, when they put it in, they just dug around it and left it lay in there, just,
Is that part of Mauger's system?
yeah, craziness, but.
Utilities Inc. was a bit of the Wild West of utilities.
Yeah, so it's, we still haven't found where it actually goes to. We're hoping to, we're gonna cap it off and we find it on the Utopia project, but it's been kind of crazy, the stuff that you find out there, but, it's moving along, so, we're still waiting on some pumps and parts for lift station 8 over there by the Corgis there. We're getting electric redone this week, and then we're waiting on parts, drives, and pumps still, but we're still on bypass with that, so, that's all we have for excitement at this time.
Okay, that's enough. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Town Attorney report, Dave, anything?
No excitement, but we closed on one more piece of the property needed for the West Side Sewer Phase 2 project. Leaves us one to acquire.
One, that's great.
We're down to one.
That's great. That's real good. Thank you, Dave. GMOB, anything to report?
Nothing, but we'll have to start scheduling a meeting with Lowell, so I'll reach out to their town manager and do that.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Chris. Public comment, any public comment? Public comments, anything, Jen?
No hands are raised online.
Okay. Seeing no public comment, this meeting is adjourned. Next meeting Tuesday, September 20th, 2022.
This meeting is called to order. This is Town Council public meeting for Tuesday, August 16th. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence and a prayer by Father John. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Almighty and merciful Lord, we give you thanks for this day, for allowing us to gather to discuss the matters and the issues brought before this town council. May your Holy Spirit be upon them so that their discussions, deliberations, and actions may be for the betterment of Cedar Lake and the state of Indiana and the country of the United States of America. For this we pray, in Jesus' most holy name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Also, I'd like to take a moment of remembrance for a friend, a veteran of the Korean War, who passed away, a brother of former Lowell Councilman Edgar Corns, Orville Corns, passed away. He's also a former co-worker of Bob's at Ford. So in your private prayers and thoughts, please remember Orville and his family. He was a good man and an American hero. So we appreciate his service to the country.
Very good.
Okay, we'll start with our presentation for this evening from an old friend of mine from high school, George Tomaszewski Jr., Indiana Fallen Heroes.
We're going to do roll call first.
I'm sorry, roll call.
Robert Carnahan.
Here.
John Foreman.
Here.
Julia Rivera. Here. Ralph Miller.
Present.
Colleen Sheehan is absent. Richard Sharp.
Here.
Randy Niemeyer.
Present.
I am present. Chris Galavis.
Present.
David Austin.
Present.
We have a quorum. George, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Town Council. Thank you, Mr.
Come on up to
Niemeyer.
the podium and go light on the mister.
So we got two placards today. The official one is Captain Andrew Loud, who recently passed. And this is of my father, my own hero. He's not part of the Indiana Fallen Heroes. He's just part of my family's hero. We're going to talk about them today. Want to stand up here with them? Put them up there. So I'm George Tomaszewski, graduate of Hanover Central in Cedar Lake. I'm a son of a veteran. I'm a member of Post 261 in Cedar Lake. This is Ride Captain Paul Rosenwinkel of the Indiana Patriot Guard. I'm also a member of Indiana Patriot Guard. He's a Gold Star family member, and he's also the leader of the Indiana Fallen Heroes, who does placards like Captain Andrew Loud's that goes around and displays them to show off the veterans that served since 9/11 that have passed, or in active duty for passing. Two reasons we came here today. There's a couple individuals here today that we want to acknowledge their honor and respect that they have shown to Cedar Lake, that they've shown to veterans, and shown to our community. So in 2018, Captain Andrew Loud had a welcome home. It was at the American Legion Post 261. At that time, the Cedar Lake Fire Department, Cedar Lake Police Department, and the Indiana Fallen Heroes and Indiana Patriot Guard welcomed home Andrew Loud and his family. One of our members designed our new coin. It's the Indiana Patriot Guard coin. It was given to Captain Loud and his mother at that welcome home, just like every welcome home we do. Fast forward to earlier this year, Captain Andrew Loud was killed in a tragic car accident on his way home to Cedar Lake. He never made it home. The Indiana Patriot Guard, along with the Cedar Lake Fire Department, Cedar Lake Police Department, welcomed him home in a procession all the way down 41. Honor was shown there. Also, Cedar Lake Fire Department has a Facebook page. They decided to post that video on the Facebook page, basically telling the world what Captain Andrew Loud did, showing what Cedar Lake does to honor their heroes. That's the first story. Second story is a personal story for me. My family hero, SP4 U.S. Army George Raymond Tomaszewski, died in 2020. A 911 call came in to the Cedar Lake Fire Department where they were dispatched. Them and their paramedics came out to our family farm to try to save my father. But unfortunately, he passed due to his, he had a heart attack and died. I went to do the funeral services at Berdan Funeral Home. They said the U.S. military couldn't come and do the service. Indiana Patriot Guard said they had to stand down because of COVID, right? I drove over to Cedar Lake Fire Department to see the chief, to thank him for trying to save my father, honor and respect that they've shown. I also asked him if he could escort our procession to the German cemetery in Cedar Lake. Said he can't do that, but he'll do a flag service for us. Fast forward to the day of the funeral. Cedar Lake police officers were there because we hired 2 of them, right? I go out there and talk to them because they said, we're all here for you today. Do you want lights and sirens or you just want silence? I said, what do you mean we're all here? I paid for 2. He goes, Cedar Lake Fire Department made a call out. We're here, streets are blocked, clear path all the way down. As we proceeded down, I'm riding in the hearse with my father, escorting him. Cedar Lake Fire Department has their ladder truck in the air with their garrison flag or American flag hanging down from it. Battalion chief up in the top saluting my family and my father, the veteran. Honor and respect was shown that day. As we continue on, Cedar Lake Police are blocking the road at the German cemetery. You can't get, when you're heading south on 41, you got to make a turn to get into the German cemetery. Cedar Lake police officer, I think he was a vest, but I don't know for sure, was sitting in his car. As soon as we got past, he got up, saluted my father, saluted the whole procession. Honor and respect was shown by the Cedar Lake Police Department also on that day. This honor and respect comes from the 2 leaders of their departments, the fire chief and the police chief. It's coming from them all the way down to their departments. So I asked you if we can come here today on behalf of the Indiana Patriot Guard, because they work with us, if we can honor these 2 individuals for their dedication, respect, and honor they showed to Captain Andrew Loud, to my family, and the countless others in this community. They're leaders. Ride Captain Paul Rosenwinkel is here because he has to be an official duty. We would like to present the same coin that was presented to me when my father died to both of the chiefs in honor of their honor and respect that they've shown to the town and to our family.
Gentlemen, this is the Indiana Patriot Guard official coin. If you'll notice on the front, there is a flag line. Those are in honor of where we stand, in honor of all our veterans and our first responders, of which you people fall in part of. We would like to congratulate the both of you and honor the both of you for your dedicated service to this community and for helping us do the project. Also on there is the angel wings, So when you have a bad day, you have a bad day. Many, many veterans have this every day. So this is, so that the good Lord reaches his arms around him. On the backside is a dove. That is this, international symbol of peace. Peace among us. And for those who pass, it puts them to rest at peace. Thank you very much for your service, sir.
It was certainly my honor, and I have all due respect for all veterans.
My honor.
Thank you very much.
Dude, you were,
No, I knew your father personally, and...
and you never knew he was a veteran.
No, I didn't, and...
When I asked him that day and I said he was a veteran, he's like, really? He never talked about it. And I met you at the Holy Name Church.
It's my honor, sir.
And he was standing there during Captain Andrew Loud's funeral. I just thought he was a police officer. You know, no idea he was a chief until someone told me. And just talking with him, I knew that the honor and respect was there. And I never got to personally thank you for anything. And with Captain Loud's this year, I thought it was a perfect opportunity for the fallen heroes to come here and the Patriot Guard to show you how much we care about you guys and helping us when we have our meetings and escorts through your town.
It's much appreciated, and it's the least we can do.
Yeah, it's our
Like I said, I knew your father, and I had responded over a few times when he had called 911, and...
I know.
And he was,
My mother's here today to say thank you also to you guys.
she's the same, and, your dad he was ornery at times, but man, we sure love him, so...
Well, we do, I also, so you know, I also gave the fire department a first responders flag. It's probably hanging there at the department. It's an honor and remember flag, kind of like when you see the Coca-Cola 600 from NASCAR. The same people. We presented that to the paramedics that tried to save my father. We also presented some checks to them, and we also did a wooden flag that says Cedar Lake Fire Department on it.
It was pretty cool.
Personalized. I
It hung in the fire station.
said if he ever retires, he should take it home because it was dedicated to him, and there's a message on the back for him.
Yeah.
Can we get a picture of the four of you together, that John could get a picture so we can have that for the record? Chris?
Someone has my claim somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll
Look, I'll wait it for a second.
That's my father's claim.
You wanna get by the emblem?
Get over in the middle there.
Yeah, we
Why don't we
maybe
just
get
hold on?
two of us on each side of it.
Yeah. Todd, you know the routine.
All right.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Cool.
That coin will stay with you.
Absolutely, I have challenge coins from a lot of people that I've lost over the years.
I never got to see you at any of the events, so I thought I'd get you here.
Randy, did you have a question?
No, that was, just want to make sure you guys got to see Memorial.
Pardon me?
I'm glad to see you're doing well.
Oh, I'm at Park Place at Independence
That's
11.
that's what he told me.
Good for you.
I'm an independent.
There you go, Mark. She's right now there.
That's something I'll have before. Thank you. Thank you for having us here. Thank you, Tom. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Quickly.
Well, I mean, they deserve what they help us with. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Over here
So, if the county council ever wants to...
George. Me too.
Sorry.
I sit to the side.
If you ever want to display it at Indiana Fallen Heroes, all you guys got to do is ask, and we'll put it up wherever you want.
Appreciate it. So I got your cell number now, and you got mine.
If you ever do the dedication to the new one,
Yeah, really.
we're cool to do some good.
Thank you, George.
We have challenge coins that we have ordered through our association. When we get one, I want to have one.
Well, I'll come there, just invite me to the
We
station.
will. It won't be in until October.
Thank you.
All right.
So the handout that I gave everyone is, in honor of the Sapper Six, as well as all the veterans within our entire county, state, actually. Indiana Fallen Heroes puts this on once a year. This will be at Mission Barbecue. Be prepared, the parking lot will be full. For any who has ever been there before.
I haven't.
So they honor first responders as well as our veterans. The Sapper 6 was 6 soldiers from the 713th out of Valparaiso who were killed since in 6 months' time. There was 4 at first killed together on January 6, 2012. 6 months later in July, 2 weeks apart, I believe it was 2 weeks apart.
No, they were both killed on the same day, July 16th.
They were both killed, okay, I'm corrected. July 16th, 2012, the other 2 were killed. This was the largest casualty count for any National Guard unit in the history of Indiana. So my wife and I and a few other Gold Star family members have gotten together since then, and we have put together what's now called Indiana Fallen Heroes. Indiana currently has about 546 of these heroes. We currently are up to roughly about 360 plaques for display. Information is very, very hard to come by. So if you know of a veteran, if you know of a veteran's family who has served in Iraq, Afghanistan, various different operations since 9/11, please let us know. We'd be happy to have a placard and put it on display in honor of their family.
Gentlemen, every year when we do our fundraiser for the fire department, on our tickets, we ask that anybody that's a veteran to please call us. We have a veterans luncheon every year. We'd like to have you guys come this year. The first year we did it, we had 120 veterans from the community. We're up to 260 now that responded.
That's great.
So this year the Legion has offered to host it and pay for the food. So we're nailing down a date now, and it'll probably be sometime in October.
Have you got a card?
So I would definitely want you guys to be there as our guests to talk about your mission as well.
If you ever seen his truck and trailer combination together, it's beautiful. The whole side is decorated out for the fallen heroes. It's one of the most beautiful trailers and trucks you can ever see.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, so, anyway, thank you again for this evening,
Thank you.
and it's my honor to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
All right, now on to our fun business. We have 3 public hearing items. Public hearing, item 1 is ordinance 1423, Town of Cedar Lake Ward redistricting, review of legals. Reading of ordinance 1423, Mr. Sharp, by its title, please.
Ordinance number 1423, an ordinance amending town ordinance number 1168, being an ordinance amending town ordinance 834, being an ordinance ratifying town ordinance number 810, being an ordinance amending the town code pertaining to the legal description of ward boundary districts in the town of Cedar Lake, and repealing all town code sections or ordinances or parts thereof in conflict herewith, and repealing all town code sections, ordinances, or parts thereof in conflict herewith, repealing all town code sections and ordinances or parts thereof in conflict herewith, and all matters related thereto, and repealing all town code sections and ordinances or parts thereof in conflict herewith, and all matters related thereto.
Thank you. So reading of ordinance 1423, are there any remonstrators? Any remonstrators? Third and final call. Anything online?
There's one hand raised on.
Okay.
Go ahead and unmute yourself, Kevin.
Good evening, how are you?
Hi, is it Kevin Toth?
Yes, Kevin Toth, 9725 BOS 129 foot.
Thank you.
Just one, this is about the redistricting, right?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. I had surgery this morning, so I'm a little bit out of it right now. But anyway, my voice is not that good either. Anyway, I just wanted to make one comment to you guys, just an example. I know what, you know, what the, ordinance says and all that stuff, but I just want you to think about one thing before you pass it. Just an example for the redistricting. You could have someone run to represent their ward, and the way it's set up right now, they could win their ward maybe by a 2-to-1 margin, maybe a 3-to-1 margin, and they could still lose the spot in that ward because of the at-large vote. And I just want to know how that provides ward representation for each of those 5 wards. And I would like you to think about that. That's it.
All right, thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin.
I feel better.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for participating on the day of a surgery.
Yeah.
No problem.
That's dedication.
Thank you.
Any other remonstrators, Jen?
No other hands are raised.
Okay, town council, if you'd like to answer the remonstrator or any discussion. Town attorney.
Didn't we introduce this ordinance?
Yes.
We did.
We did. Okay. It's an adopted reading tonight if you choose,
Yep.
following the public hearing.
Yeah, we introduced it 2 meetings ago.
Yeah, I can say a month ago.
Yep.
And I would request that we hold adoption until the next meeting. We need to notify the county 10 days before because there will be some precinct split. It's just administrative at this point.
Got it. So really, there's no,
Just the public hearing tonight.
And either close it or continue it.
okay. So there's a request by the town manager to consider deferral of this to the next public meeting for administrative purposes. Is there a motion by the council?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Miller, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Sharp. Discussion? Roll call?
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie O'Hara?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Niemeyer.
Yes, motion carries 6-0. Public hearing is closed. Ordinance 1426, Town of Cedar Lake 40-acre parcel annexation. Review of legals.
Legals are in order for the public hearing tonight.
Thank you. Reading of ordinance 1426, annexation ordinance.
Ordinance number 1426, an ordinance annexing certain contiguous land to the town of Cedar Lake, Lake County, Indiana, and all matters related thereto.
Thank you. Reading of resolution 1313, fiscal plan. Mr. Sharp by its title.
Resolution number 1313, a resolution of the Cedar Lake Town Council to approve a fiscal plan and policy for proposed annexation of a parcel of real property to the town of Cedar Lake, Lake County, Indiana.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Mr. Austin?
brief explanation.
Sure.
This is the 40-acre parcel that the town swapped exchange with the Diamond Peak developer entity related to the needs of the town for the lake ecosystem restoration project. This is not a parcel that was in town.
Correct.
Parcel exchange was in town. The developer does not have to bring that in.
Okay.
This parcel will be in the town when it is annexed.
So this is us annexing our own property.
You are. That's exactly what it is.
For the Deepwater facility.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Remonstrators. Are there any remonstrators? Clerk call. Anything online, Jen?
No hands are raised.
Thank you. Town council discussion? Okay, we have a town council decision on resolution 1313, the fiscal plan. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by
Second,
Mr.
Ralph.
Miller, second by Mr. Foreman. Discussion? Roll call?
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie O'Hara?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Niemeyer.
Yes, motion carries 6-0. Mr. Austin, the ordinance 1426, was this just an introductory or is this for consideration on first reading?
It has been introduced. This is in fact, the ordinance will not be acted upon tonight. It will be on your September 6th
Thank you.
public meeting agenda for next action.
Okay. Item 3 is Resolution 1315, additional appropriations to review illegals.
Council, this was duly noticed on August 5th.
Thank you. Reading Resolution 1315, Mr. Sharp.
Resolution number 1315, an additional appropriation.
Thank you. Ms. Sandberg.
Council members, this is for an additional appropriation within a few of the funds. Within the general fund, it would be in the town council department, other services and charges of $35,000. For the cumulative capital development fund and capital outlay for $32,000, that will be for the locution agreement that you acted upon at the last meeting, and then also for the RDA 2017 refunding bond. Slight miscalculations will be to appropriate $200 in order to make the final debt service payment, and also for the RDA 2017 A, B, and C bonds, so again, $1,950 for debt service.
Thank you. Town council discussion.
What about remonstrators?
Already went to that.
Oh, you did?
Mhm. Did I, or no? I'm sorry, remonstrators. Third public hearing tonight, so, any remonstrators?
His middle name is Rules of Order.
Third, yeah, Robert Rules of Order, Carnegie, thank you. Third call for remonstrators, anything online?
No.
Thank you. Council discussion. Town council decision on resolution 1315, is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve.
Thank you, motion by Ms. Rivera, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Sharp, discussion on the motion. Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Neiman?
Yes, motion carries 6-0. We move to public comment on agenda items. Second call, public comment on agenda items. Third call, public comment on agenda items, anything online?
One moment, we do have a hand raised. Go ahead, Kevin.
Hello, me again. Kevin Bowles, 9725 West Month.
Welcome back.
This is pretty easy. Anyway, I just had a question. You have on the agenda tonight to approve $7,000 for a site study, I think, for the new public safety building. I just wanted to know if and when there will be public discussions to explain the cost and the financing for this project. Seems like we're moving ahead without really a full explanation of how this will work.
That's all part of the process. There'll be public hearings on bond issuances, debt issuances, all of that stuff. It's all part of the process, but we can't move forward with even looking for financing on it until we have done a site study so we know we can build it.
Oh, okay, I just didn't know the process, I didn't know what the steps were as far as going forward. Thank you very much.
No problem, Kevin.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks.
Anything else, Ken, online?
No other hands are raised.
Thank you. All right, we move on to our consent agenda. We have the minutes, the August 2nd, 2022 meeting, claims, all town funds, $192,753.53. Wastewater operating, $237,403.55. Water utility, $57,665.87. Stormwater, $1,241.34. Payroll, 8/4/2022 for $327,169.86. And July remittances of $187,502.97. Manual journal entries for July 1 through 31 of 2022. Donations from the Fraternal Order of Eagles of $5,000 for park and recreation non-reverting. And alcohol waiver request for Megan Tilton, September 17, 2022. She has been instructed that she will need to get her temporary permit through the state if granted. Motion to accept and waive the reading of the minutes and accept the consent agenda is listed.
So moved.
Thank you. Motion by Ms. Rivera, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Sharp. Discussion.
Is that alcohol waiver request for the clubhouse?
Correct.
Oh, good, thank you.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman,
Yes?
Julie Rivera.
Yes.
Ralph Miller.
Yes.
Richard Sharp.
Yes.
Randy Neiman.
Yes, motion carries 6-0. Ordinances and resolutions, item 1 is ordinance 1422, hen holding annexation of Kretz Farm, introductory reading on July 5th, 2022, and public hearing was held August 2nd, 2022. This would be the adopted reading of ordinance 1422. By its title only, please, Mr. Sharp.
Ordinance number 1422, an ordinance annexing certain contiguous land to the town of Cedar Lake, Lake County, Indiana, and all matters related thereto.
Thank you. You've heard the second and adopted reading of ordinance 1422. Is there a motion by the council to adopt?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Miller. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Rivera. Discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan.
Yes.
John Foreman.
Yes?
Julie Rivera.
Yes.
Ralph Miller.
Yes.
Richard Sharp.
Yes.
Randy Neiman.
Yes, motion carries 6-0. Item 1, BZA Plan Commission Council Review of BZA Action Item NYBY. So this was something that actually I brought to the table. I'm one of these government nerds that observes and watches every single meeting of the town of Cedar Lake. And I had observed some things that happened in the process of approval of this particular item that raised some concerns from a procedural and legal standpoint, and also a jurisdictional standpoint of the BZA. So the BZA has full authority and final say on developmental variances. Use variances come before the council. But in this case, there were several procedural items that brought this to me that said we need to look at this as a review item. So I sent Chris and I talked about it, this Chapter 2 of Board of Zoning Appeals Basics. This is Indiana planning document that kind of walks through just some basics on what the BZA is supposed to do, what they're supposed to consider. And as I listened to both the July BZA meeting and August BZA meeting, I didn't ever notice one of the 3 findings of fact, the conditions for developmental variance approval. So number 1 is the approval will not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. The use and value of, number 2 is the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. Number 3, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. So number 3 is where I think we got hung up here. The petitioner never presented evidence on that particular item that would have even allowed for the BZA to consider the variance. The only hardship that was presented, and it was presented over and over again in 2 separate meetings of a continuation of a public hearing, was a legislative hardship. So as we look at the timeline of events that took place as it related to zoning, you had February 24, 2022, submittal of initial application to the Plan Commission for concept plan, preliminary plat, site plan. And then April 14, 2022, submittal of first BZA application, 3 developmental variances, which was reduced the side yard setback from 15 to 10 feet, reduced rear yard setback from 30 to 17 feet, and allow parking in front yard setback. And part of that variance process is we have a B3 use on a parcel that is, I want to say it was roughly 23,000 square feet, if I remember the record right. Our zoning ordinance for B3 doesn't allow for that development under 40,000 square feet, so hence the seeking of a variance. But the fact that item 3 on the findings of fact for developmental variances, the only hardship that was presented in practicality was one of our legislative authority. So the council adopted a new set of zoning standards under a new zoning ordinance, which is our sole authority as a council to do so under the state statute. That was adopted when? March 1st. Okay, so I understand that the gentleman, based on what I heard online on the YouTube video, that they had met with town staff several times, had started the conversational and concept process early on, but our record shows, the first actual applications that were submitted to the Plan Commission before the ordinance was changed, but a week later, we're under a new ordinance. So legislation doesn't beget a hardship, right? So we have that authority to do this. The state of Indiana yearly comes up with new slates of legislation that regulates municipal government in a way that we don't have the ability to say, wait a second, we already made a deal with somebody, or we already did it this way. No, when there's new legislation, that legislation takes effect and that's what goes forward. So in this case, the presentation of legislation as a hardship doesn't meet the criteria. So that's the first point where I think the BZA action was improper. Second point of improper action was you had two particular BZA members, one of them, and I'll reference the August BZA meeting on YouTube. At 1 hour and 11 minutes of the meeting, the discussion started. They reopened the public hearing, which was continued. At 1 hour, 27 minutes, and 43 seconds, a BZA member, Mr. Kapora, had made a comment that he was fighting for the petitioners. At 1 hour, 29 minutes, 54 seconds, BZA member Mr. Bungie had mentioned that as a citizen and a businessman, we should rally for these petitioners. Under the Indiana Code, as it relates, and that's why I sent this this planner's guide, it's conflicts of interest. Okay, this was updated in 2011. It says the member is biased or prejudiced. Oh, I just lost my place quick. The member is biased or prejudiced or otherwise unable to be impartial. Or the member has a direct or indirect financial interest in the outcome of the decision. So in this case, we had two board members that created their own conflict of interest by their advocacy on behalf of the petitioner. Therefore, under Indiana Code, it states that the member may not participate in the hearing or decision in any way. The member should state for the record that there is a conflict and then leave his or her seat with the commission before the agenda item is opened. So in this case, the agenda item was opened, and while it was open, the board members advocated on behalf of the petitioner, which created their own conflict of interest. Therefore, in my own review of this, and this is in Indiana Code 36-7-4-909A, it goes through what the conflicts of interest are. So in my mind, that vote of the BZA is a vote that they couldn't have taken because of that conflict of interest. Two members that voted in favor of, and again, I have no dog in this hunt as far as in favor or not in favor. This is not our jurisdiction. But what is our jurisdiction, and the oath that we take, is to uphold the laws of the state of Indiana and the laws of the town of Cedar Lake. And we can't ignore that oath in this particular case because there were improper procedures done, and by not presenting any hardship that is allowable under item 3 of the developmental variances, the BZA effectively took a legislative action and not a developmental variance decision. Because in order for that developmental variance to be considered, there needed to be a presentation of the impracticality of the zoning law as it sits. And that presentation, and I listened over and over again, was never specifically made. So there was no case made for the variance. Therefore, the BZA basically started to legislate, which is not allowed under Indiana statute. That is the sole authority of the town council. So if we allowed this decision to go without review, we will have essentially voided our zoning ordinance by allowing it to continue. Now, going to the zoning ordinance itself. B3 zoning in the 133rd Avenue corridor with the lot sizes there is wholly impractical. As a law, we need to review the zoning map, and in my opinion, based upon our new zoning ordinance, it should only be B1 and B2 uses to match up with our zoning ordinance. So that's the reason for this review in front of us. Tonight is, again, not opposed to auto mechanic business at all. Really don't care what the building looks like. Not here to talk about aesthetics. We adopted this ordinance because Cedar Lake has gotten to a point now where we need to look forward. And part of looking forward and adopting new laws is to make sure that we don't repeat what happened 20 and 40 and 60 years ago. And as was presented in the utility board meeting by our director of operations, some of the old stuff that we did here, we don't even have documented. So we can't continue to repeat that. And it's no excuse for anyone that, hey, you guys changed the law, that's not fair. Well, that's how this works. That's what this process is about. We had public hearings, we did the whole thing by statute. And if we allow for this particular zoning decision to stand without review, then we essentially just voided our zoning ordinance. Mr. Austin?
The zoning component of this is the strongest position in my mind, legally and planning-wise. And it was talked about in the BZA public hearing about the change in the district, the change of the community, the investment in the infrastructure and the aesthetics and the usefulness and the business-like disposition of 133rd Avenue. And it seems that got missed. In addition, the hardship or practical difficulties, that's a spot-on deal. That's right.
Yeah, I listened to it and I kept wanting to hear that presented by the petitioner because that is the petitioner's responsibility. And the only thing that was presented from a practical difficulty standpoint was that we took legislative action, which is our authority.
Yeah, my comment would be, well, right, wrong, or indifferent, John Kapora wouldn't have ever done anything purposefully. He's not gaining anything. I feel as though because they filled out the application at the end of February to the town, he felt for them. He felt bad for them. And I don't think he has anything to gain by anything whatsoever. Now, I met the folks doing the building at the Plan Commission multiple times. Like you said, it doesn't matter what the building looks like, et cetera. I've always kind of been against personally because of it's not them. I'm sure they're going to do a great job. It's the folks that might be 10, 15, 20 years down the road. So, in that part of town, we spent a lot of money and a lot of TIF money and a lot of fixing up, right? So, so you're saying this would have not been at the council tonight? Is that what you're saying?
The only reason it's here is because I took advantage of our own transparency.
Right.
Watched the meeting and noticed that parts of the law that relate to developmental variances were not followed, which basically turned the BZA into a legislative body, which they are not. They're an advisory BZA and of a judicial form.
Correct.
So they can't make law, right? So in this case, since there was not the practical difficulty part of it presented specifically as part of the developmental standards variance, there was no hardship cited that would allow them to consider this under Indiana Code 36-7-4-918.5. So that's why we're here tonight. I'm not arguing with any of the rest of the stuff. This is purely procedural and legislative. I'm sure the gentleman in the back of the room would do a wonderful job in business. They got a long reputation here in this area, so that's not the argument. But it's procedural. And some of the things you mentioned there, John, just now is about feelings, about what we feel about or what our opinions are about.
That shouldn't matter. I understand.
Yeah. It's so much of what we do up here the opinions of the people that are elected, and I tell new elected officials this, remember, when you get elected, your opinion no longer matters. It's the opinion of the public that matters. And it's our job up here to make sure that we are executing the policies that the people entrust us to adopt and then enforce. And so in order for us to have a system of government that represents the interests of the public, we have to be willing to stand by policy and not opinion.
Okay.
And in this case, there were procedural errors that beget this review. Chris?
I think you nailed it right on the head.
So just to circle back, what was the reason for the hardship?
There was none presented. The only hardship that was presented was a legislative hardship, which is not anywhere in the code as being allowed as part of a presentation of a practical difficulty.
And what he means by that is they started the process at the end of February by filling out the application at the building department, and then a week or so later, we
5 days.
changed the,
5 days
we
later,
voted on
we
a
adopted
new zoning
the
ordinance that doubled the square footage requirements, Julie, for a B3 from 20 to 40,000.
So we had a situation here in town recently with a developer who was building an upsized water utility as part of a development on 41, which is the Lakeview Business Park. And we started this discussion of a recapture agreement with them under the old law. During that discussion and negotiation, a new law was adopted by the state legislature. And basically everything that we talked about was gone. We had to start over. That's how laws work. That's how representative government works. That's how a republic works, which is what we are. So that again is part of, hey, this is our system. These are the rules that we work under. So we fall under that too as a community. We have to follow that. And the state does it to us almost every year.
It's a bad
Technology.
situation.
Yeah, that cost us a lot of money,
Yeah, and
a lot of taxpayers, a lot of money.
whether or not the communications from
Ratepayers,
an ex-staff member were done in a certain manner, none of us were present in that. Our job here on the council is to uphold the laws of the state of Indiana and the town of Cedar Lake. It's part of our oath. So that's why I presented this tonight, is we need to uphold our oath of office. So Dave, what would be a step that we could take here, since the council has no jurisdiction over developmental variances, yet we have jurisdiction over whether or not the law is being followed? How do we do this?
Yeah, I would recommend you consider imposing a moratorium on development activities in the corridor such that you will give staff time and the ability to address and review the zoning district classifications, the uses in the corridor, including this particular project property, and for recommendation on the handling of same, whether there's an amendment to the zone map, text and provisions within the zoning ordinance, and notably B3, or whether B3 should even be suitable in that location, and that in furtherance of that recommendation, you direct your town manager and the building and planning department to withhold issuance of permits, improvement location permits, pending the completion of the aforementioned review.
So this would essentially put a pause on B3 developments within that corridor, or all developments?
On all developments.
And what would be a timeline for review on something like that?
I'd suggest 60 days. Plan Commission needs to receive this from the council, needs to identify what the circumstances are on the zone map, as well as within the text of the zoning ordinance 1402, and specifically section B3, or zoning district classification B3, and to provide a recommendation to you all. Perhaps with a public hearing notice and a certification. If they do all that, 90 days is probably more practical.
Do we have any other pending applications in front of us that would be impacted by that?
That's what I'm trying to think. I don't.
From a commercial development standpoint?
Well, that's not on the.
That's on 41.
That's on 41.
This corridor, you got the Chase Building, you've got the,
Would it just be the 133rd corridor, or all three, these should all be three?
Where is it? Yeah, what is
That's up,
it?
that's up to you all.
Well, I think that the matter of discussion, as I listened to it, is this is focused on this 133rd Avenue corridor.
I think we keep it limited to that scope.
We may get it done in a time frame that's reasonable. If you
Because the 41
expand the
corridor-
scope, there'll be more time.
So the 41 corridor was developed with a B3 overlay as part of our comp plan update.
correct,
We did that purposely,
correct.
because that's an area that we want to focus that attention to, was that in particular. There was no overlay put on the 133rd Avenue commercial corridor. There was overlays put on some of the legacy properties as part of the zoning ordinance. This doesn't fall into that. This is a vacant piece of property. So that would be the procedure, would be to, if the council was to consider an action on this, would be to direct that a temporary moratorium be enacted on commercial development along the 133rd Avenue corridor, pending review by legal and our town building department and planning staff.
Should include the plan commission.
And the plan commission review? Okay. Well, you've heard my presentation tonight on this. Do we have the petitioners here from that?
Yes.
You guys are, I want to give you an opportunity, okay, in fairness. The pictures don't matter. Again, this is
Yeah, no, we're not
procedural, so
bringing it up.
this is not about you or your building or anything.
My name is David Lee, 1370 Dune Meadows Drive in Porter, Indiana. I started this process well over a year ago. I first reached out to my contractor actually August 11th. I met with multiple contractors. I met with Jill Murr back on, reached her out to her originally in September. I had a meeting with her on October 1st. I hired on with McMahon in November. They started doing all of the surveys and site work. They were pretty much ready to submit in January, but there was some issues. We wanted to make sure we got all the drainage issues done. So we reached out to Don Oliphant. He had a conference call with Don on January 21st. Don got back with them. They went over some things. But then at that point, we were waiting for calculation from Allen Block. For Allen Block. So by the time we submitted, it's not like we just went last second and submitted to try and get this thing in before your zoning ordinance changed. We had 95+% of the stuff done in February, and at the beginning of February. And we were just waiting on those last calculations so we could submit, and that's why we got the submittal on February 24th. So there was no last minute trying to get this in. I've been working on this project for a long time.
I don't think you ever heard me say there was last minute stuff. It was just the timeline fell into, we've been working on this zoning ordinance for
8 years.
No, longer than that. Greg and I started the discussion in 2012, so it's 10 years in the making. So it's unfortunate that the timeline ended up where it did. It's no fault of your own, but the fact of the matter is legislative action was taken, and which is our authority to do so. And there were procedural steps that were not, you had an opportunity in the BZA meeting to present the number 3, which is strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in use of property. What you presented was this legislative practical difficulty, well, that was created by legislation, which that's our job to legislate locally as long as we don't supersede state statutes, which we don't in this case. So that's where some of it was set off, and the other part that was set off is you had 2 BZA members who were essentially serving as advocates, which they're not allowed to do under the law either. So
I understand. What I'm kind of confused too is, I mean, we had meetings in April with you guys, everything went really well.
Not with us.
There was no, well, I'm just saying with the town of Cedar Lake, everything went really well. We had some additional private meetings in April, there was no issues. It wasn't until the June 1st meeting came up is when we were notified about the lot size variance.
But again,
And we were following
in
under
any
the
one of
ordinance.
those 2 meetings where your public hearing was started and continued to, you could have presented a practical difficulty with the ordinance, not with the legislation process or when the legislation was adopted, but with the actual ordinance, and cited in the ordinance that difficulty, then that would have been a legitimate application of the developmental standards variance criteria under the Indiana Code. That wasn't done. Okay, nobody told you to do it or not to do it, you did what you did. But then the other part, from an internal standpoint procedurally, we can't ignore conflicts of interest like that either. If we do this, we ignore this stuff, then basically the BZA made new law, and there were no public hearings, which is required under the statute. There was nothing that was followed from a statutory standpoint that, and they're not allowed to create law. So that's where the procedural stuff comes up. It has nothing to do with whether or not we want to see a business here like yours. It's not an opinion matter. We have good auto shops around town and probably need more. There's a lot of people. But this is a procedural matter at this point. So this is a matter of taking the right steps to review it, making sure that we have all of our I's dotted and T's crossed, and that BZA members understand what they can and can't do under the law, because technically I would challenge legally that vote that was made with 2 members with a possible conflict of interest was an illegal vote. Therefore, that item is voided. So that's part of our duty up here, is to follow the law.
So when the site plan and the one-lot subdivision was submitted and taken in, it met the ordinance. It met it at that time, so that it wasn't needed.
As I presented, laws change, right? And they change every year for everybody. That's the prerogative of the legislative body, is to change laws, or to update laws, or to amend them. And if you listen to Mr. Sharp read ordinances tonight, when he reads an ordinance, all the time in the title of the ordinance is a repeal of previous ordinances. So by repealing previous ordinances in consideration of new ordinances, the old law disappears.
Okay, well, I guess, I don't know. I looked at your zoning map, and more than half of the B3 parcels now don't meet your ordinance.
You're not incorrect, and that's why we need to review the whole process.
Because, you know, everybody who has a B3 parcel now can't do anything with it. Half of them, over half of them can't do anything with it.
They would have to acquire additional parcels to meet the square footage.
And they're landlocked, he can't.
Do all those people operating under B3 right now that have a smaller parcel, are they not meeting your code? For instance, the parcel...
The ones that were already there are already there. They're grandfathered in. That's how the law works. But this is a vacant parcel of new development, so it doesn't work the same.
But even though I had everything done and ready and submitted before your ordinance changed, I'm not falling under that as well, being grandfathered in, since everything was submitted before your ordinance changed?
I'm seeing here that April 14th was the submittal of the BZA application. We're talking about zoning right now. We're not talking about plan commission.
So if anyone that's got a B3 lot that's under 40,000 square foot and they want to make any type of change, they're not going to be allowed to make that change?
It's possible.
They file a petition and have a hearing, and then have the opportunity to present the criteria and meet the burden of proof. It's a burden of proof standard.
Yeah, the burden of proof is on the petitioner. So the argument that needs to be made is one that when you read through the developmental standards variance criteria, that can answer those 3 questions. And when those 3 questions are answered, then the BZA can legally consider it a variance from the ordinance. But without any one of those 3 presented, the BZA essentially turned into a legislative body. And that's the problem here for us, in my opinion, based on my own thoughts. And again, the council can vote on this to up or down, but I say this was my observation. I said, well, we got a problem here with procedure. This is not about you guys when applications were submitted, planning, building department. That's not what we do here. This is all about a legislative process. And so that's where in my opinion, where the error came up based upon my review of it, and then subsequent dive into statute was, well, we have a statutory issue.
Can I ask why, like when I originally submitted everything, why this wasn't all addressed at that point in time, then there was a problem? Why, I mean, because like I said, things just changed on a dime in June. It was like, everything seemed to be going great, and then all of a sudden, it was exact opposite. And why wasn't this addressed? Because I've got so much more into this now since then. Why wasn't this addressed right at the very beginning?
I wish I could answer what staff did or didn't do, but we're the elected legislative, fiscal, and executive body of the town. We don't interact with staff on a daily basis. We adopt policies, we enforce policies, we uphold the laws, we adopt budgets, and we sign contracts. So as far as that part of the function, the person who was here at that time is no longer with us. She moved on to a different job. We have a town manager now who's essentially running the planning part of it. And when these things came up, and it just came up in the last BZA meeting, where the public hearing was closed and a final vote was taken, and that's where I saw, well, we have a procedural problem here.
Well, I guess what made you decide to look into this?
I watch every single meeting.
Okay,
So if there was other procedural problems, I would find them and cite them.
okay.
I've had a issue for a while with, when I listen to meetings with people expressing, especially in a BZA and a plan commission, when everything is based on a set of standards and guidelines and policies. My opinion, right, I hate that word. Like, that's not the job of a plan commission and BZA to give opinions. The job is to look at policies, to go by the law. And so that's something that we do need to consider, and I'm going to ask the council to support as well, comprehensive training for all of our boards and commissions. BZA, Plan Commission, Redevelopment Commission, Park Board, Stormwater Board, Public Safety Board, all of them need training. Because I think too many times people are trying to loosely legislate from their seats up here, and that's not their job. That's the job of the town council. Just like it's not our job to tell our state legislators what to do other than at the ballot box or in phone calls or emails with them. When they legislate, we have to follow it. And when we legislate as a body, the other bodies have to follow our legislation as well. So this is a state code and a local legislative issue. So I appreciate you guys. Again, don't feel great about all of this, but it's one of those things that we did take an oath of office to uphold these local laws, and in my opinion, that's based on my review of the law. That's something we need to take a look at. So if the council would consider action on this, this is an agenda item. The action would by recommendation of the attorney, include a temporary moratorium on B3 development within the 133rd Avenue corridor.
Yeah, I can make a motion, Randy. I'd like to make a motion to direct a temporary moratorium on 133rd corridor so that and direct the plan commission to review the zoning of
Is this
that
on commercial development?
particular corridor on commercial development.
Okay,
East and west.
and this is for the,
133rd, east and west.
okay, so,
From
and this would be for
133rd,
legal review, management review, and plan commission review.
legal
Just
management
B3 zone?
and...
What's that?
Just B3 zone
I was,
lots?
you
No,
say
the whole
commercial.
corridor.
Commercial.
Necessarily, you'll need to look at it all, because you're talking about what the zoning district classification, if it could be proper, should be. It'll all be spaghetti in the review.
I mean, we're sitting there with the Chase building vacant, so we should know what that zoning is and include, if we're gonna do it, we should include the whole corridor.
I agree. Like I said, we have a particular overlay on 41.
Yes.
We don't have that on 133rd.
Are you saying from 41 to Parish, or?
Yes, 41 to Parish.
The 133rd Avenue commercial corridor, so anything that falls within the 133rd Avenue TIF district, right? I mean, it's all part of the TIF district,
And then
commercial corridors.
we have an east side.
So that's the east side as well. It's 133rd Avenue.
Gotcha, okay, that's why I just.
I would do
We
the
have no
whole, I would
overlay
do the
over
whole
this.
entire
Okay.
133rd Fifth District.
Okay. So all the parcels included within the TIF district along 130.
I don't know that we have any B3 over here, but we may, on the east side.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I don't know what the zoning map says in particular on the east side. Do we have B3 on the map?
Yeah, there are
Yeah, see, we've got this,
two quick boundaries.
yeah, we've got this problem in a couple places. And as the gentleman pointed out, our map compared to our ordinance, there's not a great fit there.
Well, therefore, this district might even go west of 41, possibly. I'm not sure where the tip ends.
It could, and it could,
Just slightly.
we know, yeah, just
Beyond
The
Amico.
Shillow property is another version.
Yeah, you have residential zoning.
there's some discussion on that too.
You have residential zoning basically west of Walgreens.
Right.
It's all residential. There's no commercial zoning there.
Well, I always say a lot of mistakes made in this town were because carte blanche zoning was given, and then no commitments of when are you gonna do what you're going to do.
I think there's a lot of,
Follow up.
I think there's a lot of free cocktail
'70s
zoning.
and '80s. And now that we've changed the zoning
Have
ordinance,
that feeling.
but you can't make somebody lose their zoning.
Well, right, but that's why you have to have the review process, and there has to be a plan commission review, and there has to be public input sought. You know, this can't just be done by a simple
Ultimately, there'd
legislative
be a public hearing,
act.
Jeff,
Yeah, it must,
if there's a change to be made.
It's full transparency, it has to, we have to follow the state statute in how we do this, so that it doesn't create an adverse situation from us from a legal standpoint where we can put ourselves in jeopardy. So the motion that you made, can you repeat it again, John?
I'd like to make a motion to direct a temporary moratorium in the amount of 90 days. I didn't add that to my other, of the 133rd corridor within the town of Cedar Lake to review zoning of that particular corridor for commercial development and direct the plan commission to review both legal as well as the town manager and the town staff to review.
Dave, you want to interject?
John, could you consider removing the 90 days? We'll report here. This will be.
I'd be happy. I would be happy.
Monthly, we're gonna report it to you.
I would be happy to remove the 90 days.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Foreman, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Sharp, discussion. Mr. Austin, for the sake of these gentlemen, the petitioners from the BZA
Right.
meeting, a question I have is, once this review is completed, depending upon the end results of this review, what would be the procedure that would be gone through with these property owners along that corridor?
Speculating on the outcome of the review process, pure speculation at this point. I would recommend to them that they reapply or come back and seek the audience of the BZA in a public hearing forum on that variance.
I didn't want to leave that unsaid, because we have something hanging out there.
Right.
Any other discussion?
Could you repeat that, Dave? I didn't understand. We need to my client needs to reapply
Come back for another shot.
for the same variance that,
For the variance that you came here before. Yes.
Would it be continuation or reapply?
Well, that depends on which goes to the speculation part.
Yeah, it's hard to speculate what the
I
end
don't know.
result of this will be.
I don't know which district it's gonna be, if it stays the same, if there's a recommendation about text, maybe an overlay on the corridor. I don't know those things, as I'm trying to answer that question.
Yeah, this will be vetted as part of the Plan Commission public meetings, public hearings. So, depends on what comes out of that, and then the recommendation from the Plan Commission will come to the council for possible adoption.
Right.
So we have a motion and a second, any other discussion? Roll call vote.
Robert Carnahan?
yes,
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Nemar?
Yes, motion carries 6-0. New business, item 1 is bid award, Public Works vehicle and crane equipment. Mr. Salatas.
We had no bids.
No bids. Isn't this great? So what's the next step?
Source wells.
Try to find source wells, see if there's additional options out there for us, for this particular piece of equipment.
This is the interesting quandary.
How is that possible? How is this possible?
I don't know.
John, welcome
How
to the
is
new
this even
economy.
happening?
The second time.
Welcome to the 2022 car, no, the roles that reverse 1,000,000% on supply and demand.
Couple
You want it?
selling stuff, so they're not bidding on anything.
Want anything. Get my use.
Check out JJK. Check out JJK.
That's hard to believe.
No action on this item.
So the vehicle, so isn't state law allow, if nobody bids, that within reason they can?
That's true.
Purchase what they
Special
need.
purchase under Title V.
Right.
And that's where Sourcewell or the vendor brokers have come into vote.
Now we gotta
Alternative
try and find
methods.
one.
So Tim, John just brought up a part of the state bidding requirements that since we received no bids, that Dave, was it Title V, you said?
Title 5-22, you can go out and solicit. You can go out and, like Tim does sometimes, scavenge, find something, you know.
Or we can employ what we did with the fire truck, which is Sourcewell, and see what's available that they've already gone through the bidding process on.
I'm told Sourcewell's not the only,
There's a couple.
only vendor out there like that.
Sure,
There
but
are-
I'm saying someone like that, a third party.
And we were considering just, buying the cab and chassis, like ordering the cab and chassis and getting that in, and then, you know, going to one of the Nappi or one of the places.
Aftermarket crane on it,
Putting the service body with the crane on our truck, so we could kinda do something.
do a hybrid, sort of.
Right, because it's just so hard to, it's crazy, it's like finding
It's unbelievable.
finding an Indian headquarters, so yeah, it's crazy, you can't, I mean, we looked everywhere.
So the council can take no action on a bid award.
Anything that's got 1,000,000 miles on it, or,
But you can direct staff
Right.
to
or they want way.
go look for special purchase.
What's the direction of the council on this?
I'd make
In
a
a formal
motion
motion, anything.
I'd make a motion to allow Public Works to, bypass the bid process and look to other means,
Special purchase.
special purchase.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Foreman, second by Mr. Sharp. Discussion. Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julia Rivera? Yes. Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Nemar?
Yes, carries 6-0. Thank you. Item 2 is Peterson Consulting Services Agreement to assist in preparing the GASB 34 report for fiscal year 2022. Mr. Salatas.
This is an annual contract with the clerk's office,
Okay.
for specific financial services that she may be best.
This is specifically for capital asset. Peterson Consulting keeps track of our capital assets for me and helps with preparation for the annual financial report that we're required to file. They do an extensive, report for us that they update annually. I believe the cost went up $150.
That's a small increase
Yeah.
compared to everything else. So that's a fixed fee of $3,650, assuming that they perform all work with no travel in their office.
Since we've been ongoing, since we've utilized their services the last few years, the last year, they did not have to travel up
Okay.
here. We were just able to update them with
Fair enough. Is there a motion by the council to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Sharp. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Rivera. Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julia Rivera? Yes. Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Nemar?
Yes, motion carries 6-0. Item 3 is a ratify approval of APEC proposal for geotechnical exploration of the new public safety building location in the amount of $6,900. Mr. Salatas.
So this was for geotechnical work. Essentially, this is $7,000 to poke 6 holes in the ground Three of those holes were to see if the ground that would be directly under the public safety building could support the public safety building, and the other three holes were to test to see if the place where the parking lot will be located can support the parking lot.
Thank you.
This work was conducted last Wednesday.
Thank you.
And did it pass?
We're still waiting results.
And this is a necessary step in building any kind of building of that size, is to test the soils.
Absolutely. We don't want it sinking.
Okay, is there a motion by the council to ratify the approval for $6,900?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Miller, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Rivera, questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julia Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Neiman?
Yes, carried 6-0. Item 4 is consideration of Northwest Indiana Cancer Kids 2022 sponsorship request. The town has a policy that mirrors the state code as it relates to expenditure of public funds on non-for-profit. So this is essentially to present this more for the public than the town, because we don't typically donate to charities. That's not our duty up here, unless we have specific funds, such as the ARPA funds, which could have gone to non-for-profit, but we've already adopted an ARPA plan that did not include this. We have Sunday, September 11th at Reeder Park in Cherville. Sponsorship opportunities is gold presenting sponsor of $5,000, silver sponsor $2,500, bronze sponsor $1,500, sprint sponsor $1,000, and jog sponsor $500. So if anybody would like to sponsor, you can download this entire packet of information on our website, and you can see where to send your checks and who to send them to. But the email is info@nwicancerkids.org, and their phone number is 219-552-1217.
Have we done this in the past?
We've always read a proclamation, and we've always presented their request for people to help with their events.
We'll have a proclamation ready for our September meeting, as September is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month.
So, the council action on this tonight, there would be really none to be taken unless the council decides they want to donate money, which, again, would be running a very interesting track with the State Board of Accounts.
Not to mention, you open a Pandora's box,
Absolutely.
and it's, we're looking after taxpayers' dollars. And when would it end? So.
Yep. So I consider a motion on this, if the council cares to. If there's no motion or second, the item will essentially be off the agenda. Is there a motion? Is there a motion? No motion. Okay, thank you. Next item, item 5 is consider awarding SRF grant administration contract. Mr. Salatas.
So we received two proposals, one from, I'm going to butcher the name, but unfortunately it's Fine Peter, and the other one from, I believe it was KSM. They're both the same amounts, $15,000. This is for our SRF funded projects, the East Side Transmission Main and Water Tower. Part of receiving government money is the compliance regulations that come with it. So SRF is funded partially or in totality by federal dollars. That federal dollars come with the strings that the Davis-Bacon Wage Act must be complied with, and they alerted myself and Neil on our call with them for the transmission main that we would need a grant administrator to do this work. So we solicited at least 10 quotes, got 2 back. These are the 2. St. Peter is a bit of a smaller firm. KSM is a larger accounting firm. It's the pleasure of the board, but my recommendation would probably be with KSM.
So we have 2 identical quotes, which doesn't happen very often. So this is purely the pleasure of the council as to who chooses. KSM or Klein Peter? We have a recommendation from our town manager to go with KSM, and is that because of the size of the firm and staff?
Yeah, generally.
Okay.
I think both will be completely capable.
Dave, what's your thoughts?
I've been here a long time. I've sat here and heard about a lot of public work projects. And in all those years, never hired somebody to do an audit for the Davis-Bacon Act, which has been in effect since the 80s, ever.
At least the 80s.
Maybe a little earlier, you're right, Rick.
But like we just said, we don't always like the laws that are in place, but we have to follow them.
Here they are.
Yes, this is another example of that. And our ignorance to the law would not allow us to ignore it.
Davis-Bacon Wage Act was passed in 1931, it looks like.
There's serious problems for violation.
Okay, what's the council's pleasure, KSM or Klein Peter?
I make a motion to go with KSM.
Motion by Mr. Sharp, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Rivera, discussion. Roll call.
Sorry, I shook me. Robert Carnahan.
Yes.
John Foreman.
Yes.
Julie Rivera.
Yes.
Ralph Miller.
Yes.
Richard Hart.
Yes.
Randy Niemeyer.
Yes. Very controversial item there.
Up to my compliance.
Number 6 is authorization to purchase a new vehicle for new building inspector, Mr. Salatas.
So I'm using the same exact quotes as the last council meeting. We need the same exact vehicle. This time, instead of a public utility employee truck, it's going to be a building inspector truck. It'll be outfitted similarly with the plow settings, so that way in the winter they can go and do parking lots, things of that nature as needed. And I believe the price is $50,700. So, yeah.
Okay. Now, what company is that again?
That is the
Probably out of Illinois.
Alan Brown.
Alan Brown Chevrolet.
Thank you. Is there a motion by the council on the recommendation of the town manager for purchase of the truck for building inspector?
And if I could add, this would be split appropriation-wise to reflect the building inspector's salary.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Miller, is that to approve?
Yes.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Sharp, discussion. Roll call.
Robert Carnahan.
Yes.
John Foreman.
Yes.
Julie Rivera. Yes. Ralph Miller.
Yes.
Richard Hart.
Yes.
Randy Niemeyer.
Yes, carries 6-0. Item 7, consider approving use of park impact fees, the amount of $23,290 for decorative lights at Kiwanis Park. Mr. Slatus.
So we're doing this sort of in reverse order, but we're asking for your approval for the park impact fees for decorative lights, which would match the same lights that we have at Bartlett-Walbert Park, but for Kiwanis Park. A conditional on the park board approving the expenditure and review by Dave.
I'll make a motion to approve the park impact fees in amount of $23,290 for the decorative lights at Kiwanis Park, contingent on park board as well as legal.
Motion by Mr. Foreman, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Sharp, discussion.
Just so you know, that's just for the light poles. The Public Works, the sewer department employees are actually installing the wiring and the pilot, the concrete sonotubes to install them on. So those lights are that expensive, almost $6,000 to $7,000 a piece. So we did do the best we could to keep it,
uniform,
keep the price as low as we can, and they're the exact same lights as on the lakefront at Markham.
Oh. Thank you. Okay, motion second, any other discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan.
Yes.
John Foreman.
Yes.
Julie Rivera.
Yes.
Ralph Miller.
Yes.
Richard Hart.
Yes.
Randy Niemeyer.
Yes, 6-0, motion carries. Item 8, consider letter of agreement with Cedar Lake Firefighters Association, Mr. Slatus.
I'm going to turn this one over to the chief.
Chief Wilkening.
This is just in reference to the association wanting to use, basically switch labor and costs for utilization of the property.
This would be for the Labor Day Fest.
Yeah, for Labor Day Fest. The association has all the tents and all.
They want to trade?
For the rent of the property and then the use of our tents, so.
Got it.
Okay.
Sounds like a reasonable trade.
Yeah.
A motion by the council to approve the request.
I'll make a motion to approve the request.
Put it up, you take it out.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Miller. Discussion?
Can I make it, the Public Works takes it down though. We put it up, they take it down since it's been used, since Tim's giving me some nonsense here right now about it.
I think we should negotiate that they.
That wasn't in the consideration here,
I think it was.
so.
That's what I'm saying.
There's a motion second on the floor. Any other discussion by the council? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yeah.
Randy?
Yes, motion carries 6-0. Reports, town council, Mr. Carnahan.
I received a lot of calls about people not getting mail and they wanna know what the town council can do. And I told them there's nothing we can do. And, I went in Saturday and they were holding a job fair at the Crown Point Post Office for all the post offices in the area. They don't have employees. And Chris also contacted our 2 United States senators, and they said there's nothing they could do, right?
Not much they can do. They did email us to inquire, so we'll wait to hear back what they have to say.
And I've heard the same thing, Bob, from residents, and I think many people, and Julie brought this up as well, people that receive drug prescriptions by mail especially are adversely impacted. Because if they don't get them by mail and they have to go to the pharmacy to get a prescription, they now have to pay 100% out of pocket because it's already been fulfilled through the mail, yet they haven't received it.
My daughter works at CVS, and she said that they've had several people come in and just try and get a 5-day supply to tide them over, and some of the costs are just astronomical. Their insurance will not cover it because they have something, on the way, so it's a really bad situation. Is this anything like the Attorney General can get involved?
All over Crown Point Center.
And then, there again, I had some other people
I think
saying
the
that
fact
their
that
bills were
they had a-
paid late, and they got charged late fees.
We didn't get mail for 5 days, and she was there delivering Sunday.
Well, so several people reported recently that they got some mail, but even if they're short-staffed, I think we all understand, hey, if you don't get mail for a couple of days, but you get it every third day,
Right.
we can live with it, but there's some areas of town that aren't getting it for weeks at a time. Sometimes 10 days.
We were
There's really no excuse for that. I mean,
We
we've
reached
got
out to them because at my house in Crumpland, we didn't get mail for 7 straight days. And our mail carrier went on vacation and they had nobody to fill them, so our mail got stacked up in the hub until he came back from vacation.
The United States Post Office is, from a logistical standpoint of actual management of logistics, it's not very well done. And that's being critical of our people in Cedar Lake. This is across the country. Their business model in transportation and how to balance and parcel out routes and stuff is just a horrible business model. That's why the USPS is nearly out of business at all times. Amazon and UPS and FedEx and those people have figured out how to do this. And yet our postal service, being subsidized by the federal government, can't figure this out. And it just shows another example of leave business up to government and government will screw it up. Just the way it is. Business should be done by business people. But nonetheless, it is what it is. And to answer your question, Bob, I don't know what we can do about it other than continuing to communicate with our federal officials and see if, and again, hopefully they can hire some people, but every business right now is short of employees. Every single business that I know of is short of employees. Even union shops are short of employees. They're starting kids out of high school. Normally they'd have to wait to go on apprenticeships. They're starting them at 19 and 20 years old in apprenticeships because they need bodies. A lot of people retired during COVID. Obviously the federal government promoted, and state governments promoted an essential, non-essential definition of workers, and we have a very slim workforce. So here we are.
Yep.
Any other council reports?
Can't even get applications.
What's that?
You can't even get applications.
No. I get resumes from people in my trucking business, and most of them I don't even want to look at because they've had 10 jobs in the last 2 years, so what's the point of me hiring them? And the ones that I do want to look at, they don't have enough experience for me to hire them. And then when I do bring them in for an interview or get an interview scheduled, most of them, 80% don't even show up to the interview. So it's a very interesting time.
Yeah, I'm living it.
We all are. So, under town council reports, one item that goes back to the BZA item is we need to commit ourselves to training of our boards and commissions. We need to take action on that and direct that either training be done internally by, like, our town attorney, or we contract with a third party, and actually our retained consulting group that does this planning and project management stuff for us, Veritas, does do this type of training as well.
I think there's some do's and don'ts. You brought up a couple of things that they didn't realize. I'm sure of it. They're both, you know, and I know I use the word opinion, but the point is they felt as though that came in under the radar because it was before March 1st. However, the BZA was completely in April. But I feel bad personally for the situation that these folks are in. I don't feel bad that we changed the ordinance to 40,000 square foot for basement. And that locates, woulda, shoulda, coulda, but usually people come and get permission and buy the property and make it locked up contingent on.
So the point of training wouldn't be to be remedial in nature.
Right.
It's more of looking forward, John. So
Well, that book is a great book that you
laws,
sent us.
yeah, laws change every year.
Right.
And there's more complexity as this town grows to what we're considering at all times. So having training is a part of an ongoing effort to make sure that as the town grows, that our people serving the town are equipped to make educated decisions. I think it's just good business for the public.
Yeah.
We undergo training as a council on a yearly basis at our conference. We should be doing the same thing here in training our people that are serving the town.
Chris, let me reach out to some various communities. You know, we always get those emails from all the cities and towns in the state. Maybe don't go extreme with a blanket email, but maybe email different areas of the state and ask what they do. I bet there's something out there. I don't want to pay money to do it.
With the Board of Safety, when
Well, our
they
town
first
attorney
became-
has offered to do it for nothing.
Well, right, I understand, but I just still think if there's a template like what you sent us, maybe,
No,
it's great. That
Well,
document
those
is great.
documents are there, but I think a yearly update where we review legislation, we look at, you know, some of the highs and lows of our last year, the areas we need to improve on.
Right.
Those are good training mechanisms. And every business does a certain amount of training, whether it be safety training or other types of
Yeah,
training.
you always have to train.
Where you're always trying to educate, and it's, and you gotta scratch your head, why don't we do that here? Why don't we do that with all of our public servants? Make sure they have a certain level of education.
When we made the Board of Safety, they asked for us to look for training for them, so we went to AIM to look for specific training for the Board of Safety, and there's nothing. They don't have.
NERC did some training for Plan Commission a number of years ago.
Right, but we can still provide, Bill, training from a legislative and legal standpoint, and even training on what was worked on here with the Lexipol stuff.
Right.
So people understand how all of it works, and so that questions can be answered, and little things that we discovered that might be deficiencies can be talked about in those training sessions, and we can work on solving problems before they become problems. So I think it's just a good effort all around for every board and commission. I mean, when I stepped into the redevelopment commission in 2019, I had a conversation with Pat Conlon, who was the chairman at the time, about TIF districts. I had no idea what the hell a TIF district was at the time. I saw it in the newspaper before, but I had no clue. And I talked to Dave then a little bit, and he helped to educate me. I did my own research. And being a bit of a government nerd, I dove into it and said, boy, this is really cool stuff.
Yeah.
right? But how many people do we bring on to boards and commissions? And Nick can probably talk to this too. When he became a BZA member, he was thrown into it and figured out. Why are we
Knowing
doing
where to look for the answer is key, right? So I don't disagree with you.
So,
I'm just thinking there's gotta be something out there that that other towns.
I would like to,
Well, they're trying to figure it out, it's hard on your department heads.
I would like to see
It's true.
an amendment to the agenda if the council would consider it, and I'll present the item while asking for the amendment, so it's a two-part presentation here, that direct that the town manager and the town attorney work together on finding a training solution for us for all boards and commissions. Would the council consider the amendment of the agenda and the consideration of the item?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Miller, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Sharp, discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan?
Yes.
John Foreman?
Yes.
Julie Rivera?
Yes.
Ralph Miller?
Yes.
Richard Sharp?
Yes.
Randy Neiman?
Yes, motion carries 6-0. So, Chris and Dave, you have direction, let's get together a strategy, so the council can adopt an official, strategy for training and protocol, and we'll get to work on it. I think it'll help everybody.
So, be done.
Thank you. Any other council reports? Town attorney?
No reports.
Clerk treasurer?
Council, I am pleased to report that my awesomeness continues to this meeting from the last meeting.
Please, let us know what your awesomeness is.
I was fortunate enough to attend the annual conference for the Association of Public Treasurers of the United States and Canada. I was even more so fortunate because I was awarded a scholarship to attend, so my registration was covered by the association. In attending, I took an extra course on public fund investment management. It was an 6.5-hour course. We went over 6 really intense modules related to investments and all kinds of other stuff. Luckily, I paid attention because I had to take a test the next day. It was a 70-question test, but I passed it, and I am now a certified public fund investment manager. CPFIM for short, that way we don't have to remember everything else.
So are you gonna get eventually like a separate page to every email you send out that'll just have all your letters?
Well, if you notice, I did change it, and
Trailer.
it's a little long-winded, like, I might take it off, it's a little much. You just come see my plans in my office.
I always like to sign every email, just Randy, that's it. I don't want any, but you earned it, congratulations to you.
Absolutely.
That's a pretty awesome thing. I think it says a lot about your dedication to your education and growth as a public servant, so you're doing a great job, keep it up. Town manager.
I'm also gonna wrap in the written communications too.
Okay.
So I just wanna give probably noticed, Parish Avenue is obviously, as we discussed in the utility meeting, we're continually finding new utilities in the corridor, which has caused delays. If anyone's been on 133rd today, they would notice we started milling. Should be a relatively brief process. I believe Reeve Riley, when we met with them for the pre-construction, said it should be 2 days of milling, 2 days of paving. All things remaining constant, but they are allowed a month for our notice to proceed. So that is going. The school was notified about that. Police Chief Fisher and I met with the school last week in regards to some safety. We're having monthly safety meetings after Uvalde to try to make sure that we're all coordinating appropriately. So they were notified then as well. And then we were notified by them. They're updating their emergency response plan. We are likewise doing the same. We're going to counter-reference both plans. They've submitted theirs to us, so that's going well. Vermillion, we did a new guardrail infrastructure. Stormwater infrastructure should be going in midweek. And then NERC, we've identified possible infrastructure funding through Don Oliphant, through the new infrastructure bill that's coming out. There's a lot of grant money now for sidewalks, so we're going to try to make some applications to get some money for sidewalk completion. SDF, as you'll notice, if you go out near the site, they've been devegetating, stripping the land there, so that's moving pretty nicely now. And they potentially will be working on the pipeline.
Why did they go all the way down by Pike?
Well, they would have gone past too.
Yeah, why all the way on the very south end? Is that just an access road?
Yeah, they're gonna make an access.
The pipe's not gonna run there, is it?
It will run through eventually that corridor that they've cut in, because it's gonna make its way to an
So is that
island.
just a way for them to get out there?
Yeah, and access it. We've also been coordinating with the railroads too, because we're gonna have to slip, 2 pipes underneath their railroad over there.
Gotcha.
And that's just to allow for, access for that site.
I was blown away when I saw that.
Building permits, for July, we had 27, which we also had 27 in last year, same month. So just like us receiving 2 quotes at the same price, we've, the same month, year over year, we had the same amount of building permits too. So that's kind of a little interesting tidbit. Those building permits totaled $6,061,650. And then the Veritas report, we kind of understand where the public safety building is. We've just approved an expense for that. The ward redistricting will be coming to a conclusion here shortly, so that'll be rolling off. Building fee assessment is also relatively close to complete, and then they've got a couple other projects that are still, that have had very little movement right now, as the other ones are moving.
So this grand total is 350 permits for the year, is that?
That appears correct. Yeah.
Trying to brisk pace.
Yes.
That's my report.
Thank you. That included the building department report, the Christopher First report, and the Veritas group. Thank you, Chris, for tying that all together. Director of Operations.
There's something to add to Chris's. Last week, we did 37 final inspections on those new houses, just last week. So that, all those crazy things are really coming to, with a lot happening at once. It's unbelievable, 37 final inspections.
Good job on the sidewalk.
The thing that amazed me, I've talked to some developers and home builders, is you have this mortgage rate interest environment right now that's going up. You say, well, wouldn't that slow things down? A lot of the people that are buying these houses are buying them with cash.
Right.
A whole bunch of them. It's like, where do people get all this money? Holy smokes.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
COVID.
Southern Illinois, buying Indiana.
I don't know, but it's incredible what's happening. It's
Great. I heard that same story.
Yeah.
And then, as John mentioned, we got the sidewalk from the water tower property from Parrish to the back of our property, which hopefully will connect to the Hanover. There's about 50 feet missing still from their side to get it connected to ours, but ours is poured and complete.
No, I think it's complete now. I wrote it out, checked it out the other day.
Yeah, but it stops at the back of the pole barn.
Oh, it does?
Yeah.
I didn't drive.
Yeah, they had a little miscue on the school property and they curved it right into the pole barn. I mean, it was like when you walk down the sidewalk, you walk into the.
That is right in the middle of the pole.
I'm gonna take a walk down that sidewalk, run into the pole barn, and sue the town.
So we put ours in the proper spot, they're fixing theirs, I don't know if it was on the plan, we don't know what the deal was, but the barn was not on the site plan, so it's just,
Yeah.
whatever.
Never seen
It
that
looks
coyote and the run.
We're getting the grass planted and everything cleared out.
It's an Acme sidewalk.
Looking pretty good.
There was an anvil at the end of it.
Yeah, there's an anvil ready to drop.
Just paint a black mark on the actual building. And you can-
And just for the record, I mean, the upper elementary school, we did final inspections inside the school. The fire department did all their stuff. The inside of the school is good to go except for the gymnasium. The gym's not done. They had problems with their wood and I don't know what happened, but the gym area is completely closed off. But they have a temporary occupancy to start using the school tomorrow for the, the outside still, there's still a lot of trim and a lot of, cosmetic stuff on the outside of the building that's incomplete, but the inside of the school, they focused on and got that part ready, so.
Well, I was wondering, driving by there a couple times during the summer, like,
Yeah, and it looks a little like, I mean, it kinda looks a little deceiving on the outside, but the inside, you walk in, it's all good.
Really nice, really nice.
It was pretty impressive, so.
Oh, that's awesome. Good news.
And what else do I have? Oh, just one other thing to mention, I know some of you know, but, at the beginning, or at the end of the month, Tom Stevens, who's been here for 13 years, retired as superintendent of the public works. So, just to acknowledge his time here, he didn't want to come and be recognized in front of anybody, because he's not that kind of guy. We got him some Texas edition emblems for his truck instead of a plaque, and he was happy as could be, so, just that kind of guy. So, I just want to say.
We haven't replaced him yet.
Not as of yet, yeah.
Well, we appreciate Tom's work and being on call and doing all the things that a public works employee does that people don't realize.
Yeah, he was a super good day, and he was a super good guy, and he appreciated the offer to come and be recognized, but he just doesn't like that kind of thing, so.
Okay.
He did say to tell you thank you for making the offer, though, so I just wanted to say that.
Hopefully he enjoys retirement, I'm sure he will.
I'm sure he will, too. That's all I have, thank you.
Thanks. Police Department.
You got our monthly report, so go along with those 37 new home inspections and 350 new home permits. We're up to 7,194 calls for service just by the end of July, and we've topped that mark of 34 calls per day. So we're moving along pretty good. We issued 107 state citations in the month of July, 311 warnings. We had a total of 29 arrests with 60 charges, 36 misdemeanor, 15 felony, for a total of 205, and a total of 373 charges filed for the year. We have also been working handily with the schools for the opening day tomorrow, with a little fear that traffic might be crazy. So we got 4 officers on the road tomorrow, and then myself and my administration will be out there to ensure that the public can navigate around the new racetrack back there.
Yeah, couldn't we have planned that? We couldn't have planned it any worse, the 133rd.
No, we're not worried about the high school. The high school will move on. Our worry is the middle school and the lower elementary.
Is that right?
Yeah. The high school, most of them know the direction of travel and how things go. They've been doing that exit for a while. Those guys that are doing the mill and grind are pretty good to know when they gotta have it open and when they can close it, you know what I mean?
And
So,
there's 3 lanes to work
yeah.
with, so you'll have to.
yeah, they'll knock it out. We're not worried about that as much as the middle school with the new setup in the lower elementary and the admin building and middle school and.
Active construction.
Lots of confusion.
Yeah.
It's an active construction zone, you're right.
So we're gonna have a lot of officers out there tomorrow. Make sure everything's moving slowly or.
Somebody should probably have their drone up there taking photos of that, because you won't be able to make that stuff up.
Yeah. And then, the fire chief asked me to tell you that, they're up to 1,119 calls for the year at the end of July.
Because my computer went dead.
I have a question, Chief Fisher.
Yes, sir.
So I received a report from a citizen. This is kind of twofold. First part is that the citizen was on the way to the Lake County Fair traveling across 133rd and came across 2 Cedar Lake police cars sitting parked at Economy Well outside of the town boundaries. Would there be a reason for that?
Absolutely. I mean, they could have been watching for a vehicle that's coming into town that they're looking for, or just finished up a traffic stop and then talked about it and we're getting ready to clear and we're, having a conversation about something and then clear it up.
Okay.
We might be running traffic on 133rd, but with additional traffic, you may not get the vehicle stopped till you get to Cedar Lake Road or that area.
And it was also brought to my attention that there might be a need for some increased patrols in the Cook subdivision.
Already taken care of.
Okay.
Because of people avoiding.
If people are, because of Parish being closed, it's funneling people into that 133rd and 41 intersection, and they're cutting off on either Schneider or Osborne to go around 135th and out to 41, because it's backing up quite a bit. The light is tough in the
They were
afternoon.
backed up to past the church today.
Yeah, my wife reported yesterday, she was on 41 heading south, and it was backed up past Goodfellas.
Yeah.
Because you don't realize how much traffic Parrish
There's a lot of traffic.
feeding
Oh, I know.
subdivisions like Centennial and Beacon Point, East and Beacon Point 1 and Lynn's Way. That's a lot of people being funneled through a very,
I think our last traffic
Choke off
study
point.
said that there was 28,000 cars through that intersection per day.
At 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I sat through 10 left turn lights trying to turn south on 41, because only one, maybe two cars
Except
would
to the
make
Little
it
League
each time
Derby.
because
Well, that's the problem, that's the complaint we have right now.
Then we have to put speed bumps, more speed bumps.
Yeah.
people don't want more speed bumps.
Well, I can tell you, I won't tell you which officer I got pulled over Saturday morning driving through the construction zone, checking out the curbs and the drainage, and then I went and checked out the lake on the south side, and I checked out the road to the bike. I had a helmet on. So I was happy that he pulled me over, because he's doing his job, you're not supposed to drive through the construction zone. I was gonna go right through Randy's yard, but I couldn't make it.
That's actually my task for you.
I tried to cut through Randy's yard, but they put a barricade up there.
My yard is full of mines too. Yeah. All right, anything else, Chief Fisher?
To breaking the law.
Thank you.
Oh, checking out
Chief
the
Wilkins?
projects, my friend.
As Chief Fisher announced, as of the end of July, we're at 111, or 1,100 calls, 188 calls for the month of July. That is up, we're up about between 13, right around 13% for the year. Our call volume's going up, so. And our trainings are almost doubling monthly now due to new people and training different people all the time at the part-time level. Also, lost my train of thought for a second there.
Yeah, my computer's at 15%.
Yeah, mine's gone.
Fireman's Ball?
Yeah, we're trying to, the Fireman's Ball's coming up, please, Bob, thanks for your donation to the tickets, I appreciate it, so does the association, and, that's it.
Thank you, that's a wonderful report, Chief.
Yeah, it's been a bad week, so
Julie.
keep my mouth shut.
That's all right, you're allowed to have a good time here, though. We got written communication done, public comment. Our friend Father John.
Father John Kowalczyk, 14338 Violet Circle, Cedar Lake. We had a whole 45-minute discussion on the BZA in their legislative action that they shouldn't have taken. What is the consequence? What is the BZA's consequence for this? Obviously, the gentleman who was impacted has a consequence. Now it's at least a 60 or 90-day moratorium so that people can figure out things. Then it's got to come back here to get so on and so forth. So 3 months, I think, is probably soon. What's the consequence for the BZA?
That is something the council reserves the right in personnel discussions and executive session to discuss what happens with certain members. BZA members, being an advisory BZA, can only be removed for cause. So that would be up to this body to discuss in the executive session.
Very well. The other thing, as you all know, I am the chaplain for the fire department and the chaplain for the police department here in town. I also am the chaplain for the police department in East Chicago. You all in this town should be very proud of the men and women that we have serving as our first responders. Their dedication and the time that they give off duty to various projects and things that you may not see, many do not see, should be applauded. So I just want that known. Thank you.
Thank you, Father John.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's great that you serve in your roles too. I mean, people don't understand the importance of chaplain in a high-stress job like that, it's extremely important. So thank you, Father John.
Pastor
Ken too.
Yeah.
Pastor Ken's not here, so.
Yes, but him too.
They both do a very good job for us.
No, they're good people. We have good people, and I think that George Tomaszewski coming here tonight and reaching out to me to recognize Chief Wilkening and Chief Fisher was a great thing too. So we gotta give some kudos to some people sometimes. Any other public comment? Third call, online.
No hands are raised.
Okay, our next town council public meeting will be Tuesday, September 6th. Until then, we are adjourned.